In the Middle Ages, the design and use of flags were considered a means of identifying social status. Flags were, therefore, the symbols not of nations, but of the nobility. The design of each flag resembled the devices on the noble's coat of arms, and the size of the flag was an indication of how high the owner stood in the nobility. All cells transcribe DNA into RNA and translate RNA into proteins on ribosomes. They can also regulate transport across a cell membrane and require chemical energy for some cellular processes. Unions take the power out of the employer's hands on many issues. There are examples of cases where workers were protected by their unions and allowed to keep their jobs. Poor workers and excellent workers often receive the same pay and raises, giving no reason for a person to work harder than necessary at their job. Time is the reality we experience most directly, but this doesn't mean that we can capture this experience mentally. The past is gone and the future is yet to come. The only reality is the present, which is real through our experience. It seems now efficacy of honey is not just an old wives' tale. Recent research has shown there is scientific evidence to prove that honey contains elements that prevent bacteria from growing. A team of scientists study sodium channels responsible for electrical signaling in nerve cells from humans and from cockroaches. Spider venom protein messes with these sodium channels, which is why venom is dangerous. An introvert will often compare old and new experiences when making a decision, which slows the processing down but leads to carefully thought out decisions. This means that introverts have an active dialogue with themselves and usually walk around with many thoughts in their minds. Newer technology, like thermal imaging cameras, is accurate, but expensive. So at a time of epic bat mortality due to, for example, the fungal white nose syndrome that's wiping out bats in Canada and the US. At the end of this year, we will launch the Cup class boats, so these will be about twice the power. The sailors are down in cockpits, and like today, a lot of power is being generated by these four grinders that are providing hydraulic power, and that energy is being used to control the flying surface. In recent years there have been one or two significant happenings that have kept alive the hope that the deep sea may conceal strange links with the past. In December 1938, off the southeast tip of Africa, an amazing fish was caught alive, a fish that was supposed to have been dead for at least 60 million years. Global warming is defined as an increase in the average temperature of the Earth's atmosphere. This trend began in the middle of the 20th century and is one of the major environmental concerns of scientists and governmental officials worldwide. The semiconductor industry has been able to improve the performance of electric systems for more than 4 decades by making ever smaller devices. However, this approach will soon encounter both scientific and technical limits, which is why the industry is exploring a number of alternative device technologies. While far fewer people these days write letters, and therefore have less use for stamps, there are still a few categories of stamp which attract collectors. Stamps in common use for an indefinite period, until the price goes up, are called definitive issues. Margaret examination leads her to the conclusion that the challenges facing the content providers in the modern world are part of a broader striving, a very old struggle, we might call it the search for meaning. A policy of containment is a difficult strategy. In the age of the fiber optic cable, the jumbo jet, and the satellite dish, there will always be the exception. By beginning so early, he knows that he has plenty of time to do thoroughly all the work he can be expected to do. All his work having been finished in good time, he has a long interval of rest in the evening before the timely hour when he goes to bed. New research shows that during the global financial crisis, workers who stayed in the jobs did not reduce their working hours. Despite claims that cuts in hours have to prevent job losses, the study found that life of people who remained same employers stayed relatively unchanged. Smart glass is cheaper than others and uses minimal power, much less, for example, than something like a curling iron. And since it's flexible and foldable, he says it could even be used for things like camouflage uniforms, to switch, for example, from green and brown to white and gray. A recent trend in the entertainment world is to adapt classic works of literature for either TV or movies. One argument is that this is to everyone's benefit, as it introduces people to works they might otherwise never have, but is rarely done successfully. Beauty contests, whether it's Miss Universe or Miss Teen International, are demeaning to women and out of sync with the times. Opponents say that they are nothing more than symbols of decline.